Okay, so we're going to go ahead and get started here. A couple things. The presentation materials are on the screen and we have included them in the chat and we will continue to do so in the chat. This webinar is being recorded. Reminder that the Q&A session is at 2 p.m. today with a different Zoom link. So you have that Zoom link that was sent to you. Please type your questions throughout the presentation in the Q&A for answering at the 2 p.m. session. The chat is disabled for questions. And new questions can also be asked at the 2 p.m. Q&A session. So we will try to get through everything just like the commission does. And all session recordings will be emailed out, including the Q&A. And a survey will also be emailed out after all sessions after the last session. So again, just some disclaimers, please check with your monitoring authority regarding their requirements. And CTC has purview over granting, denying all applications submitted for review. So we're going to go ahead and get started with Tom and Andy, and I will let them introduce themselves. Thank you.
Hi guys, I'm Andy Thomas. I am from Tuolumne County Superintendent of Schools, and I'll let Tom go next.
And I'm Tom Hajduk from the Santa Barbara County Education Office. Welcome everyone. And Andy and I are just so thrilled to be talking to you today about basic skills and transcripts.
All right, so I'll go ahead and share my screen here. This one, share. All right, so we should be on the presentation. You can see that, right, Tom?
I can see it.
Okay, good. I did right. Okay, you never know. So everyone should have a copy of this. And then at the end of our presentation, we're actually going to use those worksheets that should have also been sent out. It included some transcripts and worksheets that we're going to just go over in our presentation. So hopefully it will be more interactive and not just us talking at you. All right, so I'm going to do the first one and I got to click on it here. There we go. So here's what we're going to cover today. We're going to cover the basic skills, transcripts evaluations, and then give you some examples. And that's where I was talking about those worksheets and the transcripts. So I'm going to start you off. So you're going to listen to me for a little bit, and then Tom will go into transcripts. So I'm going to go over basic skills. Why do we need the basic skills requirement? Well, California Ed Code requires it, and so does Title V regs. In most cases, the applicants for a credential or certificate or permit that they need to apply for need to have their basic skills done before that we can actually apply for it. And the only exception to that as of right now is the substitute permit. The substitute permit, you don't have to have your basic skills if you want to apply for it without basic skills. And that's just a waiver as of right now. All right, so a little bit of history of the basic skills. We have the early years between, and I looked all this up. I did some research. So early years between 1850 and 1950, school districts were made, the districts and the schools actually made up the requirements for teaching credentials. And then in the 1950s, they finally said, hey, we should probably make some standards when it comes to teaching credentials and what needs to be required. And so they had actual licenses or credentials at that time. But in 1981, that was the first time that they actually mentioned that they need to start passing something called the basic skills requirement, or the CBEST test. So in 1986, concerns arose over the CBEST and if enough areas were actually covered. So the CBEST also has a low passage rate, and they were concerned about that. But after a lawsuit, they ruled that it was an acceptable screening test. And then nothing really changed until 2006, when more options were made available to meet the basic skills. And then in 2021, that's when all of the options became available, including the transcript evaluations. And that's when it got a lot easier to get your basic skills requirement in. So AB 130, that's the one I was just mentioning. It became effective July 2021. It authorized using coursework instead of exams for the basic skills requirement. And this is the first time that coursework had ever been allowed. So this is the current way to meet the basic skills requirement. There's a ton of ways. So you can still pass the CBEST. You can pass the multiple subject CSET plus the writing skills exam. You can pass a CSU early assessment program or the CSU placement examination. You can receive a qualifying score on the SAT or the ACT. You can pass College Board Advanced Placement Exam or your AP exams. You can pass a basic skills exam in another state as long as it's accepted in California. And you could also do coursework, a course in reading, writing, and math, or you can do an examination of coursework and an exam. So let's say someone had their writing and reading, but they just couldn't get the math requirement. They could go and take that for the CBEST, and you can combine them together to use that for your basic skills. And I did have a link down there that this is taken right from the leaflet, the CL667. So coursework areas. So reading proficiency, you have to have a grade of B or better in each of these courses in order for them to qualify. And they also have to be at least 3 semester units or 4 quarter units and non-remedial. Cannot talk this morning. And it's possible for one course to cover 2 areas. So in reading proficiency, you have to have one in either critical thinking, literature, philosophy, reading, rhetoric, or textual analysis. In writing, it has to be either in composition, English, rhetoric, written communication, or writing. In math, you have to have a class in algebra, geometry, math, quantitative reasoning, or statistics. There we go. If a course doesn't fit the guidance, and this has happened a couple times, at least for me, you can get a letter from the registrar or the appropriate department chair verifying the content of that course so it can be accepted by CTC. So forms to evaluate coursework for basic skills, you can use the 41 BSR, but this is for really programs that are able to recommend students for not just sub-permits, but an actual credential. So a preliminary, an intern, a clear credential. You can use the 41 BSR because it does need to be signed. So if you're at a county office like myself, we do not have a program. We don't have a credentialing program here. So for me, I cannot use the 41 BSR. I actually use the CL130, which is the other form. So CL130 is where you put in the actual courses and you can send that into CTC. And what we've been told is basically we are just recommending that these courses probably work. But CTC is the actual last say in if those courses do work for your basic skills. And then the 41 BSR, again, those are only for people that have a credentialing program and do the recommendations, and it has to have the authorized signature on there. The other thing is if you're using coursework and exams, you have to be a recommending authority. So you have to have that credentialing program to actually use coursework and exams for the basic skills. If you don't, then you have to send that person to someplace that has the recommending, I don't think that's even a word, the recommending person for that credential in order to get that approved by CTC. So submitting basic skills to CTC, there's a lot of information on here. I'm not going to read it all to you because I know you guys know how to read. We just want to put it out there that this is how you actually get those scores to CTC. The SAT scores do need to be an official score report, and it can't be a printout. A lot of these have to be official, so they need to order them. So keep that in mind when you're submitting for your it, like any permit for basic skills, make sure you're sending in the official ones and not just a printout, because that can delay the process. You'll get a nice little, I call them love letters from CTC, and they say, hey, this needs to be official. And then you have to apply for it. And I can tell you that the SAT one takes weeks to get to you, because they don't do electronic ones. They only mail them to you. They have not caught up with the real world yet. So I think when I did it, and I didn't realize it needed to be official, it took about 4 weeks for that to get to me. So just keep that in mind when you're submitting these. So out of state basic skills, it does vary by state, but there is a link that I've put on the slide here that you can actually see which out of state basic skills count towards California. So I just pulled off some examples. Praxis in Alabama does count for us. And in Georgia, the Georgia Assessment for Certification of Educators counts for our basic skill requirement. All right, and that is the end of my voice for a little bit. It is now going on to Tom. We're going to go more into basic skills and kind of how to evaluate that after Tom is done with his transcript part.
Andy, that was amazing. Isn't she great? And you did so good. I'm going to give you the opportunity. Do you want to just take the whole thing? Do you want to just want to transcribe?
Nope.
Okay. You sure?
But you will have to tell me when to advance the slides because I'm in control.
Would you like to advance the slides?
Sure. All right.
All right. So I want to talk about transcripts and just generally talking. We use transcripts for a lot of stuff. We use them for credential applications all the time. Most credential applications, excuse me, will require that you use transcripts. And we wrote out some of the types of applications that require transcripts. There's many more, but sub permits, child development permits, supplementary authorizations, STIPs, PIPs, TIPSLs, out-of-state applications, using transcripts all the time, but not just for credential applications. We use them for verifying the basic skills requirement. Use them at the district level when you're using local assignment options, some local assignment options that require coursework, TK compliance, salary placement, the list goes on. Transcripts are an integral part of our work. And I think we all see that transcript evaluations can get challenging sometimes. And I think in part because they're not standardized. So what I just want to do is maybe give you some things to look for and some tips and tricks. And Andy, next slide, if you please. Okay, first off, regional accreditation. This is huge. And it's huge for a number of reasons, but we'll tell you those reasons, what it is and why it's important. And next slide, please, Andy. Okay, the US is divided into 6 regions. Each region has one major accrediting agency, except for the Western region, which is a region that includes California. The Western region includes 2 major accrediting agencies, WASC Senior and Junior. We'll get into that. And these agencies monitor and verify academic standards at institutions of higher education, which includes colleges, universities, etc. Next slide, please. This is a list of all the regional accrediting agencies in the US. I am going to read every word, Andy. Unlike you, I want to just read this whole thing. No, I'm kidding. This is a resource available on the CTC website, on the SIG. These are the regional accrediting agencies in the US. And regional accreditation is required for any degree or coursework to be accepted by CTC. So in other words, whatever college, university, institute, etc., that your applicants are using for a credential application, that institution has to be accredited by one of these agencies. And next slide, Andy, please. CTC does not accept other types of accreditation. And this is going to happen to you maybe this week, maybe this month, certainly this year. Someone comes to you and says, oh, look, I went to this institute and it's not WASC accredited. Remember, WASC is the regional accrediting agency that covers California. It's not WASC accredited, but it has national accreditation for online universities. That's even better, right? In this case, it's not. But you're going to hear that. You're going to hear a ton of those. This isn't WASC accredited, but look, we're accredited by a dozen other agencies. That's enough, right? Those are national accreditations. Those are international accreditations. No, that doesn't work. It has to be regional accreditation from that previous list. Fortunately, it's fairly rare that you'll run across these unaccredited institutions. As a rule, if someone went to a UC, if they went to a Cal State, your local community colleges, these typically are accredited. You generally don't have to worry about those. Where you have to worry, whenever you see the name of a university or college or other institution that just sounds kind of unusual, that's what always sparks me to check. Usually the name jumps out at you and you're like, huh, I'm not familiar with that institution. Now, sometimes I check, they're accredited, no problem. Other times I'm like, okay, that's not an accredited place. I can't find accreditation on it. And those just won't work for CTC. One other thing to look for or be aware of at least is that accreditation can be lost. And I'll tell you a short story about Brooks Institute of Photography, formerly in Santa Barbara. It was always a joke that it was really easy to find a photographer in Santa Barbara because of Brooks Institute of Photography. And it was great. Lots of folks went there. Lots of wonderful folks went there. Brooks was technically accredited by WASC for a period of time. The leadership changed. They lost their accreditation. So individuals who received a degree or took courses at Brooks before a certain date during a period of time, those will be accepted by CTC. We've had folks get their substitute permits using a bachelor's degree from Brooks. We've also had folks come to us wanting a substitute permit, holding a bachelor's degree from Brooks, but after Brooks had lost their accreditation. Once Brooks lost their accreditation, those degrees no longer work for CTC. And it's a heartbreak. And it's something you have to be really sensitive to when you're telling that person, hey, sorry, I know you worked so hard going to college and getting your degree, but it doesn't allow you to get a substitute permit. Hard conversation. Anyway, next slide. CTC also has specific requirements about acceptable transcripts. This is always important to keep in mind. I'm kind of old school, so for me, official original hard copies. When I see those, I'm just always so happy. You know, I'm like, this is an official transcript. I know this is an official transcript. It feels official. It looks official. It's on that heavy stock paper. You look up, you see the watermark. It has that registrar signature. It's great. They can be open. CTC is fine with that. Even though the envelope says unofficial if opened, that doesn't matter. They can be opened, but original official. You may also use a photocopy if you as the district or county or charter credential representative, if you took the photocopy of an official original hard copy transcript, that's absolutely acceptable to CTC. And just a helpful hint, I say that when you get official transcripts, hard copies from your staff, and you're going to apply for a credential, put those originals in their file, take a photocopy, send that photocopy to CTC. That way you have that original transcript to review, to make other copies of. That educator might need those transcripts for another application. So you're just saving everyone time and expense. And the last category of acceptable transcripts are electronic transcripts. Those are actually the most common these days. And I'm going to say, I actually love electronic transcripts. Going back to the first one, I'm old school, and I love those original official transcripts. Sometimes they take forever. I don't know if you've noticed that. It's true. Sometimes even the original official transcripts are very difficult to read. But electronic transcripts, you know you'll be able to read them. The deal with electronic transcripts, they must be sent to you, the employer or the county, directly from the college or university. They cannot route through the applicant. And as the designated credential authority that you are, you must also verify those transcripts. And Andy, if you please. Continuing on, acceptable transcripts. Using electronic transcripts, like I said, they have to be sent to the employer by the university. And often that's indicated right on the transcript, so CTC will notice that. The reason for this, there's one reason, and it's very specific. Those PDF transcripts that you receive are very easy to edit. And I'm not saying that any of your applicants would ever be dishonest. But just so there's no temptation, this is why the transcript has to be emailed directly to you. And if you don't believe this, if you're saying, no, come on, those transcripts can't be edited. No, trust me, the next time you get an electronic transcript, next time you get that PDF, try editing it. It is stupidly easy to do. I had never edited a PDF before. I pulled up a PDF transcript. Took me a minute to find the edit button. It was a while back, but still. And I went in, and that D plus became an A plus, and it was like that. And I'm going, this is crazy. So that's why CTC is trusting you, because the university emails a transcript to you and you verify it. In order to show CTC that you have verified that transcript, you get it electronically, you print it out, you either write or stamp on the copy, verified true copy of an original document. You know, it doesn't have to be those exact words. I like that statement. That's a statement that we have used since way back, and that's what our stamp says. But whatever you say, verified copy, true copy of an original, whatever. Write something like that or stamp something like that, then sign your name as the representative. And Andy, a few things. Next, counting units. You probably know, and if not, let me tell you, that units are not standardized across institutions. There are semester units, there are quarter units, and I'm sorry to be the one to tell you this. You'll probably run into other transcripts that don't fit either of those models. Just take those case by case, and usually the institution will have information about converting those to semester unit equivalent. Semester units, the semester unit equivalent, that's our standard. So when you get transcripts from a university on the quarter system, in order to count those units, if you're counting them for any purpose, you would need to convert those quarter units to the semester unit equivalent. We go by semester units, quarter units are converted to their semester equivalent. Now, for you math people out there, here are a couple formulas. These are great formulas, wonderful formulas. You're going to love this. One semester unit equals 1.5 quarter units. I know you're all right now doing math in your head, right? 1 quarter unit equals 2/3 of a semester unit. We couldn't use a decimal mark right there because it'd be 0.666666666, right? Onto infinity. So I had to use the fraction. So 1 semester unit, 1.5 quarter units, 1 quarter unit, 2/3 of a semester unit. You guys are all set to convert units, but just in case, we have on the next slide this chart, which has hung on my office wall since I started in credentials 25 years ago. That's partly why the copy is so terrible. Now, I tried to find a better original, didn't have time to make a new original, but this conversion chart for me has been golden, because if ever I'm talking about quarter units or a unit equivalent, I just look up and I see the information and I can say like that. It's very impressive. It's like when you memorize sections of the education code. Like if you can just bust out, oh yeah, that's a 44865. It sounds very impressive. So if you hang this on your office wall or do something similar, and someone says, hey, how many semester units does 24 quarter units equal? You can just say, well, 16, whatever. But okay, so you're one of those people, you don't like messy junk on your office walls the way I do. We've got another resource for you. You don't want to do the math, you don't want to look up at your wall. On the Credential Information Guide, the SIG, is the CTC Unit Calculator. On the left side of the screen, you see that you can link to the unit calculator under the Tools section on the homepage of the SIG. You see right there, click on Tools, go down to Unit Calculator, and you'll come up with this item on the right, which is the CTC Unit Calculator. And it's really amazing. Talk about high tech, right? You put in a number of quarter units, you click Calculate, and it shows you immediately the semester unit equivalent. Pretty cool stuff, right? You're welcome. Knock yourself out. If you didn't know about that, hey, it's amazing. Try it. It's fun. Next slide, please. We wanted to put this out there, CTC coursework standards, because there are slight variations on requirements for coursework for different types of applications to CTC for different purposes. That probably made no sense at all, but that's why we wanted to go into this. CTC has these coursework standards. So you have transcripts, you have completed courses from accredited colleges and universities. You're reviewing those. Now, this is regular coursework. Typically, continuing education units, seminars, professional development hours, any of those things are not going to count for credential applications. Typically, it needs to be regular college units granted by a regionally accredited college or university or other institution of higher education. But generally, general rule, the coursework or degree must be from a regionally accredited institution of higher education, IHE. If you're a little newer, you haven't seen that acronym, IHE, that's definitely a 50-cent acronym. Use that, throw that one out there. Again, just like quoting a section of ed code, it's a great way to blow people's minds. You're like, oh, well, the IHE representative said, and trust me, it just, you sound like you're in the know. Non-remedial. Remedial coursework is when, just a reminder, is when someone enrolls in a college, and this would typically be a junior college, but some four-year institutions have these as well. There are placement exams, typically in math and English. And if the individual doesn't test high enough or doesn't place high enough to start taking regular level, college level math and English classes, they may be required to take remedial classes. Fortunately, one other way to determine whether a class is remedial is the next point. The class has to be bachelor degree applicable, bachelor degree transferable. That will generally tell you if it's remedial. But in other words, the class has to be one that will be accepted toward bachelor degree requirements. If you're reviewing classes at a junior college, community college, they'll often be very clear about classes transferring or not transferring. And a quick sidebar there, your applicants, your educators, your teachers, other folks generally don't think to give you their junior college transcripts. But everyone who's been doing this for a little while knows junior college transcripts are often the place where you find classes that are really essential for whatever you're doing. So just keep that in mind, that everyone will want to give you their grad school transcripts. They'll want to give you their bachelor's degree transcripts. Oh my gosh, look what I did. But keep an eye out for junior college, community college transcripts. Sorry about the sidebar. Okay, so in general, regionally accredited, non-remedial, bachelor's degree applicable, grade of C- or higher. If you look in the CTC information, it says C or higher. They consider a C- to be part of the C's, right? So the grade has to be C- or higher. If it's a D, if it's an F, those don't count. If it's coursework in progress, if it's coursework incomplete, anything like that, those don't work. But more good news, if the individual took the course credit, no credit, or pass, no pass, those classes are absolutely fine as long as they passed. It's interesting how often this comes up. It's also interesting that the reason we wrote out credit, no credit, or pass, no pass is because usually when I was talking with someone, I would say, yeah, if you took the class credit, no credit, that's fine as long as you got credit, as long as you passed. And then say, what about pass, no pass? Credit, no credit, pass, no pass. Those are all fine. Or any other variation of that, as long as they finished the class and passed. Okay. Those are the general rules. For child development permits, slightly different. Courses needed to be taken at a regionally accredited institution of higher education, an IHE, regionally accredited. In California, that's WASC. The coursework needs to be non-remedial, but drum roll, please. Those courses don't necessarily need to be bachelor's degree transferable. They only need to be associate degree transferable. So this is a important difference when you're applying for child development permits, is that the coursework only needs to be associate degree applicable. And that won't typically be any issue for early childhood ed units. But when you're when you're looking for general ed units, say for a teacher level permit, you need 16 general ed units. You need to make sure that the class is at least associate degree transferable. Grade of C- or higher. And again, it's fine if they took the class credit, no credit, or pass, no pass, as long as they finished the class and passed it. Last but not least, basic skills. And credentials wouldn't be this fun if there wasn't, these slight nuances and differences, right? So basic skills has one important difference. The classes still need to be taken at an accredited institution. They need to be non-remedial, bachelor's degree applicable, but the grade needs to be B- or higher. When AB 130 passed, you should have heard these discussions of the statewide county networking subcommittee. Oh my gosh, B- or higher, this was huge. This hasn't been a thing. C- has always been the standard for coursework accepted by CTC. Not anymore. For basic skills, remember, a C+ will not cut it. And yes, I'm sure many of you, just like me, have had those heartbreaks. You're like, yes, I was looking for a reading class. They took philosophy. Oh, got a C. Shoot. Important difference to look for when using coursework for the basic skills requirement. And of course, credit, no credit, pass, no pass are fine if they finish the class and pass. Whew. Andy, that was a lot. Are you sure you don't want to just take over? I'm kidding. Do you want to go to the next slide?
No, you got this. You're doing a great job.
Thank you very much.
And Tom is right. When that AB 130 came out, the B or better was huge, huge.
Yeah, do you remember the long discussions about will they still take pass, no pass?
Yes.
Because it wasn't clear right off the bat.
It was not.
Yeah. We were in a frenzy.
And then these bills always pass, and then CTC comes out with clarifications.
Yeah, and we wanted those clarifications like yesterday.
Yeah.
I think it probably took a couple weeks or something.
It did. Yes.
Yeah. So, oh my gosh, the high level transcript discussions, right?
It was crazy.
All right. What about next slide? Again, just to keep it interesting, when you have an applicant come to you who did their schooling outside of the US, it's going to blow your mind. It's going to blow your mind first when you look at a transcript from Canada and you're like, this is fine. I mean, unless it was from Quebec and they were in French or something, but otherwise, yeah, you have this Canadian transcript or from a college in Ireland. This is fine. It's in English. I can read it. They have the letter grade system, unit system. This all makes sense. No. If it's not from the US, even a transcript from Canada, Ireland, England, an English-speaking country, needs to be evaluated by one of the approved services, CTC approved services, and you'll find those in the CL 635. And of course, that is a transcript from a university, college, other institution, anywhere outside the US. Keep in mind that US territories like Guam or the Virgin Islands, US Virgin Islands, those are part of the US for these purposes, or for all purposes, really. But if you get transcripts from Brazil, from China, from Jamaica. Those transcripts need to be evaluated by an approved service. And just be really careful because you'll want to review this list. Folks may come to you with a transcript evaluation from somewhere else or just a translation. But it needs to be a formal evaluation from the approved service. And you'll find the list at that link. And then next slide, please.
Well, I wanted to add that always download this before you tell them the approved list. Like, don't memorize it because sometimes these change. They do drop off and they add others. And so whenever someone asks me, I'm like, hold on, let me download the list.
You know, Andy, that's a great point. And that is actually, even for more than this, I would say it's a great general rule. I mostly have stopped printing anything ahead of time from the CTC site, just because there can be changes, important changes that can happen overnight. And they might be smaller technical changes where CTC doesn't send out an announcement. So they may not really catch your eye, but I constantly go back to the website. I constantly review information on requirements because it can change, and I want to make sure to get it right. That's a great point, Andy. Thank you. Ooh, and we are to the examples part of the presentation.
We are.
Do you think, I know we're slightly early, but would this be a good time for a break?
I'm thinking yes, because
Yeah, we can definitely take a break.
all right, excellent. So a 10-minute break. So that puts us at 9:57.
Sounds good. We'll be
All
back,
right.
guys.
We'll see you then.
Gonna wait. There it is.
Go
Yay.
ahead, Andy.
Just wanted to make sure it was still being recorded.
Yes,
Okay.
thank you, Tom and Andy. Go ahead and continue.
All right, so hopefully you all downloaded the worksheet and have printed them out, because this was the best way for me when I first did my first Credential Academy. We did it in person back in 2018 or 2019. I can't remember which year. COVID kind of messed up all the years. So it really helped having that transcript in front of me to really look at it and evaluate it and figure out, oh, that's what that means. And everything that went along with the transcript just kind of made sense once I actually saw it. So I thought this was the best way to kind of show you guys how I look at transcripts and evaluate them for basic skills. And also for PIPs and STIPs. And Tom can interject because he has a program at his site, because he really evaluates transcripts for like a real purpose.
You know, Andy, I think you are right on. There's nothing I would want to add at all. You're doing great.
All right. Okay, so let me click here. Okay, so first we're going to talk about the basic skills requirement and looking over transcripts, and just transcripts, not exams and transcripts, ACTs, SATs, just the transcripts. So we're going to evaluate some transcripts for basic skills. And these actually came from real transcripts that were handed in to me that I had to figure out if they met basic skills or not. Sometimes it's easy, and sometimes it's like, where's that one class? So for this one, I did choose the easy ones.
You know, Andy, I want to throw in actually one thing that's going to come up when we talk about the easy ones and the hard ones. For the hard ones, and you're probably going to talk about this, but just remember that a course description can often really be your friend. If something seems dicey, read the course description, send a copy of the course description to CTC to help them make the determination.
Yeah, and I actually just did that yesterday for someone applying for a sub permit, and they have 2 classes, and I'm like, I don't know. And I had to look up the course description. The easiest way to do that, by the way, just a little hint, you Google the school and then the actual class. So like if it's not like the name of the class, like the English literature, because you're going to get everything. It's like ENG 350, and you will find that pretty easily. If it's an older class, you can go on to college and universities websites, and they usually have archived, what do they call them? Course catalogs. And you can find it that way. So you just go to the year that the course was actually done, and you can find that course description. And it does help, and you just take a little snippet of that and print it out. All right. So this is the first one. So go ahead and pull out the number 1 transcripts. I did put like number 1, number 2, number 3 on them. So this is the first one. And again, I've removed identification off of these because we don't want to share that personal identification. If you have anyone that took classes in, like, I want to say the 60s, 70s, 80s, keep in mind they're going to have their date of birth and social security number on those transcripts. So you really, when you're sharing these out, not to CTC, but if you're sharing them to, you know, hey, does this actually work? That kind of thing. You want to make sure that all that information is off of those transcripts. They don't use social and date of birth anymore, but they used to. So keep it in mind, even if it's the last 4 of the social, you just take it all off, take the name off, everything.
Yeah, you know, Andy, that's so important. You know, sometimes I'll have a district say, "Oh, I want to email you these transcripts to look over," and I've gotten really a little just really extra cautious about any time anyone saying, "I want to email this document over to you," because I've had transcripts sent over, and same with older CBAS, full social, full date of birth. It's like, oh no. Emails can be easily hacked, and if someone has someone's, you know, full name, full social, full date of birth, address, that's not good if they're a nefarious character. So yeah, just be really careful about that, please.
Yeah, they can go apply for a loan, go buy a new Mustang Mach-E, whatever. So you just want to be really, really careful.
Apply for a new JCPenney credit card.
There you go. Yes. Okay, so the first thing I do when I get transcripts, and these are from, like Tom was saying, these are from a regionally accredited, or like a big name college. So it's Southern New Hampshire University. It's like, okay, well, you know, it sounds pretty good. But you know what? I still look at the back of the transcript. And I say back. If you get them electronically, it's not the back, it's the second page. But I always look, because you never know. So the first place that I look is accreditation and membership. So this one does say the New England Commission of Higher Education, formerly New English Association of Schools and Colleges, New Hampshire Post-Secondary Education Commission, additional program accreditation and membership. Information is available on the expanded transcript key. So we know that it's regionally accredited. So yay, excellent. The next thing I check, are these quarter or are they semester? This one says that it includes traditional semesters. So yay, we don't have to worry about quarter units and translating those into semester units. Now, some will actually say before this date, they were on quarters, and then after this date, they are semesters. So keep that in mind when you're looking at them, even older ones, just making sure that you're calculating them right, because CTC will catch everything. Trust me. And then the next thing that I look at is the course levels. So, and I just look at this to make sure that none of the courses are remedial. Like we were talking about, we really want those to be the upper division or non-remedial classes. And this one actually says undergraduate level courses are numbered from 1 or 001 to 49999. Lower division courses are in the hundreds. Upper division is in the 300 to 400s. They don't really say they're remedial courses, so they probably don't offer them at this college.
And thanks for letting me jump in so
Mhm.
frequently, Andy. I also want to throw out there, just a reminder to everyone, we talk about lower division classes, upper division classes, and graduate classes, and then other classes, but just, remember that lower division and upper division are all bachelor's degree classes, bachelor's degree applicable classes. I know I'm sure you all know this, but you go to a UC, for example, you take you're pursuing a bachelor's degree, you take so many lower division classes, so many upper division classes, particularly in a major, and that's how you get your bachelor's degree, and then of course graduate is after that.
All right. So then I know all of these classes count. I flip it back over or go back to the first page. So we're back to the actual transcripts and we're doing basic skills. Okay, so keep that in mind for this next step. What I do is I go through and I cross out the ones that I cannot count. So if we remember, those are any classes B and above I can count. So anything with a C or lower, I'm going to cross out. And I do this so that I don't get my hopes up. Because if you don't cross out the ones, you're like, oh man, I really needed that one. No. So that's the first thing I do is I cross them out. And then I go through and I highlight which would be used for what. And you can do this in different colors. I did it in different colors on this, you'll see in a minute. But you can do it in different colors when you're just starting. So you have your highlighters and you can do green for English and red for math and that kind of thing, because it just kind of helps it stand out to you. Okay. So I went through and I highlighted all the English ones because I know this is going to take care of my reading and writing requirement. And I'm like, whew, yeah, I know what this girl or this person majored in. They majored in English because they have a lot of English classes. This would not be me. And then I'm like, okay, we need that math one math one. And luckily she passed it with an A. So excellent. So from here, I kind of take a look. Okay, we have our English 122 for English Composition 1. We know that's going to count for at least a writing class. Then I'm like, okay, well, we need that reading class. So then I kind of look through them. There's critical approaches to literature, World Lit 1, World Lit 2. All of those will count towards your reading requirement. And we have the math. So looking at this, I know that she meets the basic skills requirement. So because I am not a recommending authority, I fill out the CL 130. So what I do is I put in their name, it's Jane Smith, and then I go down to the reading proficiency. And on this, what I do like about this form is it does remind you what courses count for what. So your reading proficiency, you have critical thinking, literature, philosophy, reading, rhetoric, or textual analysis. Writing, you have composition, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so in case you forget, just keep this in front of you while you're looking at these transcripts. So I go to the reading proficiency, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to count the Lit 200 critical approaches to literature. She got a B with 3 semester units. That should do it. But you know what? I'm going to put in a backup just in case. It's always good to have a backup. So Lit 201, World Lit 1, Foundations of Culture, I believe. And they got a B and 3 semester units. Then I go down to the writing one. We have English Composition 1, they got a B, and English Composition 2. They got a B with 3 semester units. And then I go down to the math and put in the 1 math class that she has. So like I said, luckily, and I didn't change that grade. I apologize. I was inputting these and it should have been an A. But this is how you would fill out that form. This form does not require a signature. It's just, again, you're saying, hey, this is what I think will work, and CTC will evaluate the final one.
And you know, Andy, I wanted to say too, because I will receive applications and people are stressing because they've put classes in all 3 boxes. And they're like, what if those classes don't work, but I have another class that does? My whole application's going to be ruined, right? It's going to get rejected. No. CTC will double check you. So even like whatever you put on this, it's just gives CTC a starting point, lets them know what you were thinking. But if it turns out the person has another qualifying class that's on their transcript that you didn't write down, it'll be okay. CTC will catch it and then they'll approve it.
Yep, that is correct. All right, so I wanted to go over one more situation where, let's say, a class can count for 2 of the sections. So we have on this one, and I didn't cross out any of these. I just wanted to highlight the one that will count for both. And here it is right here, English 101, composition and reading. That will count for both the reading and the writing requirement. In order to fill that out on the CL 130, put in their name again. And then right here, I put English 101, composition and reading, put their grade, the semester unit, and then in the writing, I put the exact same thing. And these are great because they're PDF fillable, so you can just do copy, paste. Really easy. So it's okay to write that in for both of those. And you really don't have to have a backup if you don't want to have a backup. But it's nice to have a backup just in case. It gives CTC kind of like what Tom was saying, that starting off point, where they can say, okay, here's what that person's thinking, and it makes it go faster for CTC. All right, and this is usually where I say any questions, but it's so weird not answering questions. All right, so here are some, sorry about that, I didn't take out that transition. All right, so multiple subjects, PIPs, STIPs, and TIPSELs, and apparently there's a line as well. So helpful forms for this is the CL 860 and the CL 861. And this is for multiple subject only. Okay, these are the forms to look at for your multiple subject. The TIPSEL, just so you guys know, the TIPSEL, they don't have any worksheets that go along with the TIPSEL. So when you're filling out or when you're applying for someone for a TIPSEL, you can use these same forms for the TIPSEL. And that's actually what I do. I use these forms constantly just to make sure that I have the things in the right areas. And you'll see what I'm talking about here. So this is where we want you to take out your number 2 transcripts. And this includes the Merced College, the Southern New Hampshire University, and it's not the same person, just so you know. And then also the multiple subject provisional permit evaluation worksheet. So take them out. And what we're going to do, first thing is we're going to cross out any of the classes that are D or lower. Okay, so I'm going to give you a couple minutes while we're sitting here. I know it's kind of weird on Zoom and it's like no feedback for me. But I want you guys to go ahead and just, wherever you are, take out those transcripts and cross out the ones that are D and below, because they won't count. So that's first step.
Andy, I want to say too, I do the exact same thing. It's interesting that you do that. And trust me, you know, there'll be transcripts where that's just not really a big deal. But, you know, we've had challenging transcripts where there are so many incompletes and low grades and, you know, et cetera, non-passes. And that's what got me started doing this, where I'm just going, oh my gosh, I need to know what I'm working with, because you'll read through the information and go, oh, that class won't work. but then you look back and go, oh, a math class. Oh no, it's an F. So yeah,
Right.
that's
It
such a
really,
helpful thing.
yeah, it really helps to like not get your hopes up, as I was saying before.
Yeah, because you'll keep looping back to that same class and you keep going, oh yeah, finite math. Oh no. Yeah, oh calculus. Oh no.
Yes, and I have done that too when I'm in a hurry
Mhm.
and I'm not crossing them out. The other thing I wanted to mention, because I say do this on the transcripts, make sure it's a copy of the transcripts, not the original ones, because that would be bad. Don't write on the original ones. Always take a copy of them. All right, so now that you've crossed out all the ones, so I can see a couple of them, English 1, 2, 3, the operation management, they had F's in them. So, you should have crossed those out. So now that you've done that, what I like to do, as I mentioned before, is that you highlight the different areas. So in this, for multiple subjects, we're looking for either, and this is a PIP, so this changed within the past 2 years. So degree major cannot be liberal arts, because then they don't qualify for the PIP because they have met subject matter competency. So that's been a struggle for me, at least, because it used to be, oh, liberal arts, they meet it, bam, I don't have to fill this out, but not anymore. Okay, so if they have a degree that is not liberal arts, then you have to fill out this form, and this form wants, and it still says, must have either a major degree in liberal studies or liberal arts, or 40 semester units, including 10 semester units of coursework in each of the 4 of the following subjects, or at least 4 of the subjects. So they want them in these different areas. And you can see like language studies, and I'm sorry, I keep looking over to the side. It's where my screen is. So language studies, you have literature classes, composition, foreign language, language acquisition, speech, linguistics, English. Okay, they want 10 units in there. And then they want 10 units in 3 of the other areas. Now, it doesn't have to be all language studies. Like if you have someone like myself that is more math heavy, you're probably going to find these units in mathematics, maybe social science, science, and then I think my other ones were humanities. Okay, so I will tell you, I took the least amount of English classes that I had to in college because I hated it. I hate writing. So you're going to look for the classes that fit into the different areas. And it really helps if you're just starting out, to highlight the different classes that fit in the different areas in different colors. So language studies, you can highlight in yellow. Literature, you can highlight in blue. History, you can highlight in green. Social studies, now you're going to have some overlap in social studies and history. Keep that in mind. You can highlight that in green. Mathematics, you can highlight in different color, and so on and so on and so on. So I'm going to give you a couple minutes. You guys probably did not come prepared with highlighters, so you're probably like digging around your desk right now. Don't worry about it, okay? Take a pen. I know, oh gosh, you can't even see it. Oh, there we go, pen, okay? Pen, and do like little marks. Circle for language studies. I'm trying to think of the name, a star for literature, a square for history, that kind of thing. Do some sort of individual mark for the different areas. So I'm going to give you a couple minutes to go ahead and look at that and kind of evaluate these for the different areas.
And I want to throw in too, Andy, I'm glad you mentioned the overlap with social science and history.
I didn't get that.
Be careful because for basic skills, you might use the same 3-unit class for reading and writing. But for this type of evaluation, if the person has a history class, you can't use that in the history box and the social science box. You can't use that same class. You can only use it for one or the other. So hopefully you don't need the units for both.
Yes, that is correct. So you can't use them in the same box. Sometimes there are times, and I'll just tell you as you guys are kind of going through these, there are times where like humanities and human development kind of overlap. And there are times where I don't have enough units in humanities, but I have enough units in human development. So I'll move my humanity classes down into the human development or vice versa. So that's where, like, you can't use them in the same box, but you can definitely transfer them to make it work. You have to get a little creative sometimes. All right, I know there's a lot of classes here, and we can give you guys more time. Of course, no feedback. I can't tell if you guys are done. Let me look through your computer. Let me see. Are you guys done? Just kidding. So the biggest thing for me when I first started, and I started about 7 years ago. Gosh, time has gone by. I've gotten some more wrinkles and no gray hair though. My husband has taken all those on. So when I first started, I was like, wait, is this a history class? Is this a political science class? What kind of class is it? So if you can't tell from the description or the name, then you have to go look up the actual course description and figure out, does this fall, like, where does this fall? And if you still can't figure that out, you could actually look in the course catalogs. They have different areas in there where these classes fall under. So usually I will download a course catalog and I'll do a Control F as when I open it in a PDF. Control F on the keyboard is your find once you're in Adobe. And I do a search for, let's just say I'm looking for the Math 240, and I'm going to see, does that fall under any other areas? And I'll do that. And I find everywhere that that class has been mentioned in that course catalog. So it might apply for math, and it also might apply for, like, in a science area, but we know that's not going to apply for here because it says sciences, biology, chemistry, physics, or geo. But at least you can get a feel for where that class kind of falls under.
You know, another helpful hint that comes up for me, and this only works for certain areas, but I've done this, and I don't know. Don't tell CTC I'm doing this. I'm just kidding.
Are they on this call? Are they spying on us?
I thought we banned them. No, occasionally, you know, I've been down to the wire where I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't make this work. I need 3 more history units. But the person has a class on history of music. And you know, that works. So, you know, I wouldn't have done that if they needed the course for the for the arts or something, but since they didn't, they had so many other music classes. I used that class under history, and that worked. And that, like I said, that's not really a widespread deal, but like you might find in the psychology department a statistics class, and that will work for math. So those are little things to look for. It won't typically matter that much, but every now and then, when you reach that point where you're just going, I need 3 more units. Think about that whether a course transfers over.
Yes, that's a really good hint, or helpful tip, because there have been times where I am just like, I need 1 more class, 1 more. And you're like pulling out your hair. And then I take a walk around the building because I need a new perspective. I mean, and then you come back and you're like, wait a minute, I think it might count towards this other way. So yeah, keep that in mind, and always ask for help. If you're at a district, ask your county office, hey, what do you think? Would this work? If you're at a county office, ask other county offices, hey, have you ever tried this? Because you never know, it might have worked for someone else. And if it worked for someone else, there's precedence there and you can fight it. Because I've done that before. Well, wait a minute. Wait a minute, it worked before. All right, so I am going to, can I use this? Yes, okay. All right, So this person, John Smith, he was going for a multiple subject provisional intern permit in multiple, I already said that, multiple subjects. Blah. Okay. All right. So I needed to evaluate his things, and you guys should be done with that or close to it, close enough that we can move on. So I'm going to tell you what I found. It might not be exactly what you found, because there are multiple ways that this person probably could have qualified. But this is what I found, and this is how I qualified them. Because this is an actual person that I qualified for a PIP in multiple subjects. So there are, of course, I only did 3, but there were 4 English classes. Okay, there were 4. I know there were 4. I only listed 3, and that only equals 9, but apparently my brain wasn't working. But there were 4, I promise you. So English studies, there were 4 classes. Social science, I found 4 classes. Keep in mind, most semester units are in 3s. So you always have to have like 4 classes of something, unless it's math, because math, there are 4 units. There we go. So I actually listed 4 classes here in math, just so you guys could have an idea of what it is. So there are 2 classes that are actually 4 units each, and those math classes are a little bit harder, and they require more time, which is why it counts for more units. So I could have only done 3 classes in that one section if I wanted to. And then the last one was phys ed. And I know this one counted because he's a sports management degree. So I know he had a ton of physical ed, and all of those should add up to 10. I didn't count, but I believe that they do. All right, so that is what I found. Again, there is probably many more ways to actually get this done with the transcripts that I gave you, but this is one way that this person qualified for the actual multiple subjects PIP that we applied for. All right, so when it comes to, of course, there we go, single subject, it's a little different. So you're going to pull out the next set of transcripts, cannot talk, which are the California State University Stanislaus, and then the CL 862. And I just did this for single subject. I just did the PIPs. I didn't do STIPs because they're basically the same, just so you know. They add up the same, and because they are fillable PDFs, I believe they add up the units for you as well. So you don't have to worry about like pulling out a calculator to add up and make sure that they add up to 18 units. Because when you're applying for a single subject, you need to have 18 semester units or 9 upper division semester units. Remember, we were talking about upper and lower of coursework to be listed on the permit. Now, when it comes to science, this is where it gets a little interesting. At least 9 of those semester units have to be in the specific science area. So a permit for foundational level general science, an individual must verify a bachelor's degree or higher in science, does not include health science, or verify 18 semester units or 9 upper division units across 4 different science areas: biological, chemistry, geo, and physics. So what that also means is the science part. So say you want to do one in biology. I had to just think of one. You can have those units in any science, but at least 9 semester units have to be in biology. So keep that in mind as far as science. This is the only one that really requires those extra units to be in there. Okay, so we're going to give you a little bit of time to evaluate these transcripts, because what we're going for here is a single subject in geography, or I'm sorry, not geography, social science. He has a bachelor's in geography. So look through this and see if you can find all the ones that would apply for social science. Now, if you're wondering, hey, what classes apply for social science, you can go back. I'm going to go back. There we go. To right here where it says social science, and all of those classes apply for social science. So when I was first learning, I sometimes had to use both of these just so that I could get an idea of what classes actually fell into the social science realm, or visual arts, or humanities, or whatever else I was looking for. In English, maybe I needed an English teacher. I would look at what classes actually fell into literature to get an idea of what classes I could use on this form. Okay, so get back to here, here, and here. So start evaluating those transcripts. And actually, this is a pretty good copy of this transcript. So start evaluating, again, going through, crossing off ones that don't work, which on this one are none of them. All of them work. So take a look at these classes and mark them, see which ones will actually work. These ones you could highlight in one color because you're just looking for one area.
Andy, I'm going to throw in too, here's another time when you and I were kind of doing the same thing. In this case, slightly different. For social science, what I use is there's a child development permit worksheet, the CL 723A. I don't think we have it in our slides. I should have thought of that. Totally on me. But page 2 of the child development permit worksheet lists all the general ed areas and then the types of classes that work under that. And for me, just like you were saying, Andy, that's been golden, where I'm just going, oh my gosh, will this count as a social science? And I look there and it has them all listed. It's kind of brilliant.
That's really great. I had no idea because I don't do child development permits here. So I never look at any of that paperwork.
You're so lucky, let me tell you.
Go to the college, go do it there. That's what I tell them.
I also thought I would throw in, because this came up with me years ago and it has really stuck with me. Where you're talking about, there's times when CTC says 18 semester units or 9 upper division graduate units, right? So I ran into this case where someone had, 4 graduate units that applied, and I needed those to round out the total units. And so I'm going, wait, so does that mean that I can then use those as double for the regular unit requirement for the 18 units, or that do I need to do some fancy math if I'm using some lower division classes, some lower division units, and some upper division units? Do I have to do a special calculation? No. In any case where it says 18 units or 9 upper division or graduate units, if you're going with the 9 option, all of those units need to be upper division or graduate. This won't come up very often, but if it ever does, you'll be one step ahead of the game. Don't be like me where I'm going, oh my gosh, do I need to do this fancy calculation? Because Andy, I took 0 math classes in college. 0. Apparently I took no speaking classes either because I can't say words, but yeah, so that I'm doing this fancy calculation, and then I'm like, well, I should ask CTC if this will work. And I asked them, they're like, no. So if they're not, if you want to use the 9, but they're not, you don't have a 9 total upper division graduate, then you just have to use 18. You can use those for the 18, but there's no special calculation. So maybe that's a good thing for non-math people like myself, Andy. Thank you very much.
Yes. The other thing is, and I just thought of it and now it's out of my mind. I wanted to say something and now I don't remember. Darn it. Getting old. It's credentialing stuff. It's not for the faint at heart, man.
No gray hair, though.
No gray hair, no gray hair. Yes, no gray hair. I'm not there yet. So, oh, I know what I was going to say. There it is, it returned. Woohoo! So if you want to ask CTC about a class, you can email them and say, hey, will this work? Most likely the answer that you will get back is send in the application and you'll find out. And they say it in a much nicer way, but that's basically what they say. They won't evaluate the classes until they get the application. So it's really best to ask for help from your county office or other county offices if you're a county office.
Yeah, and you know, that's something too, Andy, that came up for me the first time many years ago. I want to just ask him, like, hey, does this class work? Because, you know, I mean, we're basing this person's job offer on the fact that they qualify for this permit. And when they said they wouldn't do that, at first I'm like, what? How dare you? But in defense of CTC, just imagine if they did, if everybody was sending them these classes, like, oh, hey, I'm doing this application. Before I send it in, please check my work. Even at the local level, that's like that's double your work or more. But I imagine CTC doing pre-evaluations on all this stuff on people who are never going to even apply. It would be impossible, and they need to do other stuff, and they are doing lots of great things that help us. So yeah, you typically can't have them pre-check a class.
Yes, that is correct.
So follow Andy's guidance and you'll be okay.
You can follow the guidance that I have here because I know it's right.
Just not on child development permits.
Not on, no, don't ask me anything about child development permits. I know nothing. Okay, so you most likely have gone through everything and you should have been able to find some. On this form, like I've already kind of read, but there's also a check one, and normally I forget to check one. So if you have like classes down there, I pretty much assume that they know which way you're going. So it says check one, degree major in subject area, no coursework evaluation or coursework evaluation. So again, if you don't check one and then there's courses down there, I think they know which way you're going. So have to be completed from a regionally accredited college, must be bachelorette degree applicable, and then also must be earned with a C or better. So these are the classes that I found. This person did have a major in geography, so most likely these were going to work, because in geography it kind of straddles history, geography. It goes into that social science area. So this one was not hard for me to figure out. And then I know that it added up to 19 units, not 18. So as long as we had over the amount that was required, it works out perfectly. All right, well, that was it. Oh, of course. Yes, there we go. Okay. So that was it for our presentation and our examples. It looks like there's a bunch of questions that we get to answer later.
Yes.
Yeah, so thank you, Andy and Tom, so much. We really appreciate it. You guys captivated our attention. Love having you guys. So again, we will see everyone at 2 o'clock for the Q&As. We will leave the Q&A up for about 5 more minutes for you guys to type in any questions, and then we will end the webinar. So thank you very much again, you guys. See you at 2 o'clock.
Thank you, Amy, for getting everything all situated for us. It made our presentation even easier.
Yeah, thanks, Amy. Thanks, Andy. You're amazing. And thank you, everybody, for coming in and watching us talk about this fun and awesome topic.
Thank you. Okay, we'll give you guys 5 more minutes for questions, and then we'll see you at 2 o'clock. Thank you.